Hello and welcome. We return once more for Worldbuilding Wednesday. Let's just make sure everything is working, and then we'll get right to it. Today, we of course have a sort of plan, if you will, which we'll get to. Let's see. I suppose, first, a slight update. I suppose it's an update of sorts. So, of course, I think it was one stream ago, two, something like that. Of course, we had a sort of eldritch monstrosity running about the ship. Well, it's still around, but it appears. So, there's that. But that shouldn't be a problem. Our conscripts are on it. Other than that, of course, we are still on board our starship. Unfortunately, the eldritch monstrosity did get into our supply caches. So we've been stuck with, only the best Imperial rations. Not the best, but, Anyway, on other news, as you can see, something sorted itself out. Not sure what. I genuinely don't know what happened last time. In a sense of what went wrong with our file setup. Because as you can see, over there in the corner, we have the date. I didn't mess with it. I assume either the problem sorted itself out or our conscripts handled it. But if they did it without my direct intervention. So that's good. I mean, that's, usually when conscripts go about their business, it's not ideal but when they take initiative into their own hands. But in this case, if they did, that's good. Unfortunately, we can't reward them with better rations, given the whole monstrosity getting into the supply base. But we'll probably let them use the tank or something. They're like the tanks. Anyway, let's see. So, I suppose we should get into business. Of course, it is Worldbuilding Wednesday. For you lot, for most of you lot, for us here, it is, of course, what? What day is it? It is a day here for us. That's not Wednesday, but that's just how it goes. I mean, now I want to know what your translation for the day is. Of course, we have different translations of days and so forth, given the fact that, technically, for you Elysian viewers out there, I do speak a different language than you lot. Of course, we translate it over. Because how else would you understand our broadcast if we didn't, translate our languages over? But given that it is here on our galactic date, the 26th, it is, of course, Friday. Which, look, the entire setup, I assure you, of how we label our days is it's just absolutely fucked no matter how you look at it. Of course, it is Worldbuilding Wednesday, but it's Friday here. And then, of course, on Friday, we have Miscellaneous Friday, which we here on your miscellaneous Friday, it's not Friday, but we run the Solo Sunday campaign, which, as you can see, it's it's not ideal in making any sense whatsoever. But it is usually Sunday here on our galactic time when it's Solo Sunday, but it's not Worldbuilding Wednesday when it's Wednesday because it's Friday when it's Worldbuilding Wednesday. Anyway, as you can see, it does get slightly confusing, but no need to worry. I mean, after all, we are on different times, as we've stated before. We here are on galactic time, while you're on some Elysian old Earth time or something. So, and don't get me started. I mean, it is Worldbuilding Wednesday, so we might as well ramble just slightly. So, yes, time here isn't standard, as in, yes, we have time zones, we have planets, each planet has its own years and day lengths and all that. Yes. However, the majority of civilized space runs on galactic standard time, which basically is a standardized time based on the Galactic Council capital. Galactic Council capital being, well, Sector 00, because the coordinate system's also based on it, and so forth. But long story short, whenever we give you dates or times, it's always galactic standard. It's always the galactic standard date and time. It's never the, well, except for what we call what each day is. But, we use the galactic standard date and time throughout a lot of galaxy. Yes, each local world has their own day, time, year, month, etc. Same with currencies. They often have their own currencies, but, galactic trade and all that, their government-backed currency from their world there doesn't necessarily have sway 5 systems over in a place that has absolutely no connection to their economy. So, of course, we use the galactic standard system backed by the galactic banks and the galactic, etc., and so forth. That's a long story. We're not going to get into the lore of that here. We have plans today. Today, our plan is to, of course, map out the sector. We're going to do it. We're going to finish, or at least work on, this sector. The frontier sector. Sacred Grove, as it's called. We still got to name this subsector. For the longest while, when we first mapped it out, I'm like, we'll name this one based on some sort of music name or something, because as you can see, it looks sort of like a music note. Anyway, we also got to actually, finish the sector, which will take a little bit of doing. But, so I mean, it'll be a bit boring to start with, I suppose. I mean, unless you like placing squares on maps. Because we're going to be, I mean, we'll talk while we go about it. Don't get me wrong. We'll ramble while we go about it. But for today's world building, because I really have to get this done. And it would be good if, I explained how it all works and we go about it together. Because, So, unfortunately, we are a little bit unprepared. Not really unprepared. How do I put it? One of our systems for getting all this done decided it wanted to close, and so I have to reopen everything. Luckily, we'll do it as we go. It won't be too much of a problem. We're looking for the green arrows. Where are they? Who knows? Here they are. Oh, first of all, let's rename it. Okay, words. There's a sector, in and out sector lane, but we need a better word. What's sector transit lane, I suppose. We'll clear facing. Configure it to top-down view. Change to object, background, object. That will do. Because we know that the sector jumps out there. We also know that the sector, technically, jumps out there. So, now to the actual work bits. First of all, step one, find the right file here. We will do some fun things, don't get me wrong. We will do some fun sector design things with our little new sort of cool system. Well, it's not really a new system as much as we standardized something. We standardized a little bit of a thing. Where is it? So in order to do this work, first things first, I need to find the file for the sector. It will make everything I do on my end easier in the future. Because the way this works is, so for you, what you'll see, more than likely, is me putting squares on the grid at first. We'll talk and do all sorts of stuff and work on them. But for getting the final sectors down, 1 second. For getting the final sectors down, what will happen is, obviously, I'll be placing lanes and squares. From your perspective, that's likely what you'll see. On my end, I need to note the exact coordinates of every single object. And by that, here's what it means. So this right here is 3, 3. You can tell because 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, galactic coordinates wise. And then this star, or system, might not be a star, we don't know yet, is 2, 3. So if I didn't do what I'm going to set up on my end, I would have to manually go in and type 2, 3. I'd have to type, well, 3, 3, 2, 3. And then I have to go, okay, next, well, first I go 1, 15, then 2, 3, then 6, 14, until we got the entire thing down. Luckily, there's an automated way to do it, which is what I'm setting up. There's also the far more annoying thing, which I don't have an automated way to do, which we're not going to do here right now, even while we're going about it, but designating the FTL lanes is another thing that needs to be done that's annoying, but I'll do that on my end, because that's literally just typing down coordinates, you know, that's literally going 1, 15, 2, 6, 14, east 5, north 1. And that's how we get FTL lane designations for archival purposes. Not the most entertaining. In fact, one of the most annoying things to do, but we don't have an automated way to do it. And we're not going to do it here today. We'll make the lanes, but we're not going to coordinates them. Anyway, in order to do this, I do need to find the file. Where is it? Did it close? Okay. It appears, wait. Yeah, it appears the file is not open. Okay, we'll get to it then. I'll just save the data into a secondary file and then import it in when we're done. Because I'm not going to make you wait for me to search through all the files we have on the Galaxy to find the exact sector to start inputting data on that sector. So we'll just note it in a secondary file and then import it in. Okay, let's make a note in my temporary file. Sacred Grove System. No, Sacred Grove Sector. Map archive. Okay, so first things first. A little bit of water before we start. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start here. We're going to move outward. Just because it's easy. Well, let's start here. Why not? Of course, we can do completely random or we can influence it, and we are going to influence it to a degree. Which means, that's annoying. We're going to have to do the first one by complete hand. I don't want to. We won't. We'll do it generated and leave it how it is. Okay. First things first. 7. So, we input it into our star chart, type in the number 7, and we come up with a data block. We'll copy that data block over to here. We also need to make a quick note. 1, 1, 6. We need to note that above the data block. Subsector 1, 6. There we go. 1 second. Here we are. The annoying part. Okay. First things first, let's switch over to the mapper. Switch to the explorer. Switch to the right layer. No, draw explorer, not object explorer. We're looking for the object layer, I suppose. Get the properties. Switch to the object layer. Switch to grid snap. And here we go. Here's where it gets annoying. 1, 3. Oh, let's make this a little bit easier on ourselves. 1, 3. Oh no. Okay, so it appears that's not the right layer that we wanted to use. We'll use the token layer. We can always edit the layers later. 1, 3. 6, 4. That is 6, 4, right? This is also the annoying part, making sure we're right. 6, 4. We'll try to go about this as fast as possible. 8, 6. 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6. No. We have to do that again. Here we go. That was 8, 6. 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6. There we go. Next, is... What's next? 814. That's easy. If we know this is 8, 14 second from the bottom. There we are. 12, 15, 15, 14, 13, 12, 15, 15, 7, and 15, 10. 15, 7, 15, 10. 15, 7, 15, 10, 12, 15, 8, 14, 8, 6, 6, 4, and 1, 3. There we go. Now, from here, we're going to get the properties from this one and do a little bit of drawing. No. Wrong type. There we go. Much better. I don't want this connecting down there. That's the main thing we're making sure of this sector. I also don't want it connecting to this sector. I'm not sure why. Just think it's more interesting that way. But we will have it connect up here. Then maybe this will connect to there. And getting down here, they just won't have made lanes between these. I mean, making lanes is dangerous. It's not like it's a simple task. Generally, it costs like 100 credit units and the lives of several starship crews and starships. We know that they'll be able to exit the area from there. There's no inter-system exit from there, though. Even though theoretically there could be. Technically, sectors are listed at like, you can have connections at like up to 18. Also, technically, you can have it further, but generally, the max sector lanes generally 18 between them, like distance-wise, but you can theoretically have longer. Generally, you know, you can't have a connection between, like, say, this square and then over to here. You can't go more than one over usually. Like, you can't go, like, over to here from here and so forth. Anyway, we'll also place some things here. Oh, we can't? Can we? Half a second. So, like I said, I have a map for this, a sector file map, and it has a bit of work that I did when working on one of these things, and I thought we could do a little bit of that too, which is fun. It's far funner than drawing squares on the line. Trust me, it's a lot more world building. We can also do some of that. I mean, like I say, I'm conflicted because, I mean, how do I put this? I, of course, want to provide entertainment for you. That is all I wish to do. And from my perspective, I could absolutely just sit down and work on this on my own and get the sector done. I could do pretty much any of the sector stuff. Hell, I could do only the boring sector stuff on my own. But I don't know whether that's what you want. If it would be preferred if I skip the very boring thing like the placement of subsector, you know, locations and all that. I know that from my perspective, I personally can find such things boring. I personally can find such things boring, but I also personally usually don't find those things boring. I would, let's put it this way. I absolutely despise in like your Elysian media, your internet media, when people are playing games or doing something and they cut bits out. Even if it's boring going back and looking at something, then they cut it out. I personally despise that. You're cutting out bits, yeah, sure. Even if you're just walking a few, like, why cut it out? If I want to skip it, I'll skip it myself. Like, I just personally prefer when it's there, but I don't know. Maybe people prefer when things are, the boring bits are skipped. But I personally, when somebody's doing a project or something, I like seeing the whole thing. But I do admit, sitting here, presenting the fact that I'm mapping the grid squares seems a bit boring, but I mean, it's what I do when I do this. So, I could just not show it. We could skip over and we could return, you know, next time with this done. I've literally been putting off finishing this map because I'm like, I should do it on stream. But also when as you see, when I go to do it, I'm like, well, this is exceptionally boring, isn't it? Maybe I shouldn't do this on stream because this is probably exceptionally boring. But, like I said, personally, from my point of view, I like when people show the entire process, the project. I mean, you can have me ramble in the background, talk about what's going on while I work on the thing. If that's what you want. Some people like that. That's my point. I like watching the entire process of something being done. Maybe people would prefer to have it all there. Maybe not. But I suppose we'll just, I just don't know. But, like I said, it is, though, exceptionally boring. I mean, we'll do another. See, I type out the word that makes it happen. Ooh, maximum system. Well, not maximum for this density of stars. We have different densities of stars. We're going with a certain standard density right now just because. But we rolled maximum, meaning we're going to get 10 objects. We're going to copy that over. We're doing 1 north, so that's 1, 5. So what I'm going to do is go to our temporary sheet, subsector 1, 5, paste the grid in. Now that the grid's there, you go back to here, get the properties of the squares, and we start placing them. So, like I was saying, some people might find this boring. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like I said, I like watching the entire process. Like I said, I've been over that. But I mean, I must admit, from my own perspective, like 213, sorry, let's see. 15, 14, 13. From my own perspective, don't get me wrong, this is absolutely boring work for me too. Don't get me wrong, like I find the process of making the grids excruciatingly boring. Like, not from a doing perspective. Like, I check the grid, place the square, check the grid, place the square, you know? But I suppose this is more of a chill thing than anything. 413. 1, 2, 3, 4, 13. There we go. 5, 3. So this is 5. That's 3. Next on our line is going to be 7, 8. 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. unfortunately, like I said, that at least right now, given the technologies we have available, there is currently no easier way for me to go about this. If I could, trust me, like I said, I find the work of doing this bit excruciatingly boring. It used to be worse before we had the system that lets us do what we're doing now. And by that, I mean this little grid that appears that tells me where to place them. We had to do this manually, in which we had these other dice. We had two ways of going about it. We would either have to, A, roll a bunch of scatter dice, hope they land within the grid. Well, we obviously roll the dice to get the number of systems, roll the scatter dice, look at the scatter dice, and then sort of approximate where they were onto the grid. That was the original. From there, we moved to roll two 15s, 1d15 twice, one for across, one for down, to get, and that would also give us the coordinates a lot easier. And now we input we input a word, the number, hit the button, get the grid. Real easy. So don't get me wrong, we've simplified the process. It's a lot faster, so much faster, but still excruciatingly annoying. Just because of like this bit right here. 7, 8. After 7, 8, 7, 12. That's going to be a lot easier. 7, 12. Next we have 7, 14. Next on our list, 8, 2. Followed by 11, 3. After 11, 3, we have the coordinates 13, 9. There we are. 13, 9. And that's another sector down. So for this one, we'll also just quickly slap down the line grid. I'm going to do something fun here. I'm going to connect those two. These will all be connected. That will go to there. This will go there. And we'll make a sort of actual little section here. And that will be a hub world right there. I mean, look at that. That is a hub world. And this will connect, both will connect into there. So we have a sort of little hub here. That won't connect to there though, for interesting reasons. Okay. See, making lanes at least, while theoretically just as, I mean, when you get into the actual inputting the coordinates, it's worse. When you get to actually putting in the coordinates of the FTL lanes, it's so much worse than making the actual sectors. But when just making the lines, it's so much easier, so much funner. Anyway. Let's see. Let me look for the file another second, see if we can't do something a bit more fun. Oop, if I don't click the wrong thing here, come on. Okay. Okay, we're going to have to do a file search. Half a second. File search underway. File search opened. No. Yes. Sort of. Not ideal, but what we're sort of looking for. It will have to do. Subsector 6-7. 6-7. Subsector 6. 7. Here we are. This is what we're looking for. As you can see, we have some stuff here, but we actually worked a bit more on... Okay, here's what we'll do. I came across a realization that if I zoom out, I might lose where we are. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this little arrow here and drop that there. We're going to take that arrow. We're going to go size. We're going to go colossal. We're going to point that arrow right there. That way, just for now, we won't lose what we're looking at. Okay. Because I will have to zoom over here for some things. So I worked a bit on this. And we have some data that I want to fill out to actually put on a map. Subsector 6-7, that's where we are. Subsector location 7-8. Seven, 8. It is that one. Okay. So if we zoom in on this object, if we're able to find the object, we can input data. If we hit the right button. Okay, I'm not sure if that's visible. It's probably not visible. Now it is slightly. That's not ideal. Not sure how visible that is for you. So, the way this works is, you might not ever... Yeah, I just realized I don't think I've ever brought it up, actually. Maybe I did, but maybe I didn't. So, whenever we're actually running Solo Sunday or doing anything with some notes, sometimes I'll be taking notes and editing quick notes, sometimes in my little notepad, which obviously isn't visible, but sometimes I'll be taking notes in our, GMBot sheet, which is visible. As you can see there, we can always bring up our GMBot sheet. Sometimes I take it in my quick notepad, which is a lot faster to do. And sometimes I'll actually take the notes in the actual token itself. That's one of the great things about map tools, is you can take notes in the token. So what I did there was I took notes in the token. So if I click it, the bottom left, I'm not sure if it's actually easily visible, but there's notes there. By the way, what it says, because I said I don't know if it's visible at all, it says DB class Black Dwarf 1, which is just the star class, and the fact that it's the first place Black Dwarf on the map. A Black Dwarf is a white dwarf that has decayed. Well, its heat energy has radiated over time, thus becoming a black dwarf because it's no longer shining. Anyway, there are no black dwarfs in your home galaxy for you Elysians out there, or your universe for the most part, because statistically the amount of time it would take for a black dwarf, well, a white dwarf to decay into a black dwarf is longer than the amount of time that the galaxy, that your universe has existed. It's more than the amount of time your galaxy has existed too. But yes, there are no black dwarfs there because, yeah, of course, we here go under different laws of physics in a different reality with different everything, and our universe, I say our like it's ours, but to be fair, it belongs to the Empire, yeah, but it's not the Imperial home universe. We are called the Grand Dimensional Empire for a reason. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the galaxy is that and the universe we're in is like 112 billion, but also has different laws of physics and so forth. So, of course, of course, those in Katskov Industries do know that that's ridiculous and inaccurate, and there's reasons that we use different laws of physics. Those in charge at Katskov Industries are, they're not astrophysicists, but they did study astronomy, so they do know when things are accurate or inaccurate in those senses. Those in Katskov Industries do know about your Elysian Earth astronomy, such topics, and, your stellar classifications, which we have two of O, B, A, F, G, K, M, L, T, Y, which is the stellar classifications. Technically, L, T, and Y are like sub-dwarf, because there's brown dwarfs, which are L class also. M are like technically stars. I forget what it's been years, but M class stars are like barely stars. I mean, they're stars technically. Then there's brown dwarf stars, which are so forth. And then there's Wolf Riot class stars, C class stars, S class stars. C is carbon stars, by the way, and S class stars. I forget what S class stars are, but they're similar to carbon stars. Wolf Riot, S and C class stars. So L, T, and Y are like brown dwarf, sub brown dwarf, barely, technically not stars, hot gas giants, and C, S, and Wolf Riot are dying supergiant stars, like when a O class begins going supergiant and so forth, or when a supergiant M class and so forth. It's dying stars. They're the basically the two sides. The smallest dying stars, well, the smallest not dying, but almost got that wrong there. LT and Y class will basically exist forever, not literally forever, but the longer M, LT, and Y will exist for the longest amount of time, while Wolf Riot, S, and C won't. They'll exist for like millions of years? Not billions, millions. Or something like that. Maybe hundreds of millions. They don't have a long lifespan. Anyway. So, anyway. Point is, physics different. This black dwarf class star has 13 orbiting objects, 8 inner, 5 outer system, 0 epistellar. There's an artificial object, 2 planets, an asteroid field, 3 more planets, an icy. Icy? Okay. Sorry, now I'm worried about my own notes. Um, so one of the objects is labeled icy. I forget whether that's ice giant. No, that wouldn't be an ice giant, would it? Or would it? Luckily, we have a little system here which will tell us what that means. For us, ICY, icy planetesimal field. Okay, because there's 3 similar. There's ICE, ICE in our list being, where is it? ICE being ice giant, ICY being icy planetesimal field, and the annoyingly confusing SNO being an icy world, and the even more annoyingly similar, where's the last one? FRO being a frozen world. So as you can see, sometimes I can get those a little bit confused, but that's why we have this chart here. So an icy planetesimal field, another planet, some sort of artificial structure, another planet, 2 asteroid fields are in orbit of this. Anyway, there's lots of fun things we'll do with that. We're just noting down all the things we need to so I can have it for future reference. Let's see. A K and an M class star with nothing in orbit at sector location 94. 94. 94 is there. So we don't have a multiple star image, but we just put that there. So this one, sector, south 308, west 253. That's the Sacred Grove sector, by the way. Subsector 67. That's the subsector one. Then subsector location, or SL, 94. It's a binary system, 2, K plus M dash 0, being 2 objects, a K and an M class, and 0 objects in orbit. Easy enough. So let's go get the last one. I believe there's only one more in this section before we get to the fun things. 12-7. It's an M and a DB. An M and a DB. So we'll use M to represent the system, because it's first in the lettering. Now let's see. I forgot what its sector number was. Well, subsector location. And that is going to be 12-7. So that's 12-7. Zoom in. Place that there. DB being a black dwarf. This object has, well, it's a binary system, 2-M plus DB dash 2, 2 objects in orbit, dash OCN plus STOR, ocean with heavy storms, and dash ART for artificial structure. Now, if you want to know the fun part, it's adding tags. Tags are the fun part. So we have these bits with information, which we can go into more detail, don't get me wrong. The amount of detail that we can go into in any object is annoyingly large. I think you've seen the Sacred Growth system here. Like that right there is genuinely the short version. I wish I was kidding. Well, I don't wish I was kidding. It's good that it's the short version. We have an entire, basically every system has its file. This just lets us know what's in the system for ease of use. Like I said, the map only is really necessary, is useful. Sacred Grove has its own sector data because it's so important. We have an entire file for it, basically. Let's see. So here's what I mean by tags. Let's see. 0 objects in orbit. This one, we look at the surrounding objects, of course. So this is going to be important unless there's a reason you'd rather go here. Artificial structure, so maybe. But they'd still have something here. So this would be a civilized system, more than likely. Now we could add tags too. Hmm. Sorry, just doing a lot of thinking about how we actually want to go about all of this. Hmm. So, tags. Because I realize that you can't see, really, at least well, the tags. If I input them. Hmm. Suppose we could do something like this. It would be more work on my end, but okay. This is the system we're working on. It's the one with zero in orbit. So, if you want to know what tags are. So, I mean, we're going to skip a large bit of this. Because technically, we could get an entire sheet. Like, we could get an entire sheet. And by that, let me show you what we mean here. Because we have an example ready to be just like thrown down. Of course, we can't really use the example. The reason we can't use the example being because it's for a different system, of course. Meaning, it wouldn't translate over. Where's my astronomical catalog? Here we are. Is it not saved in the astronomical catalog? That would be concerning. I thought I was being more organized recently. Hmm. Okay. If it's not saved there, where did I save it to? Oh, it's in a completely different campaign. No? What? Oh, okay. So, my apologies. One more second. What one must understand is, we run a lot, a lot of campaigns, and a number that is large, a large number of campaigns. And I apparently saved the data to, well, not didn't save the data to. The thing I was working on was in a completely different campaign. But the question is, did we save a blank sheet? We did. Okay. So, just for reference, make sure this worked. Yes. For reference, we could. Ooh, no, no. Okay. So, sometimes the two programs I'm using don't get along with each other. There we go. So we could, of course, get this place an entire system profile. System core number 2. Core classes K plus M. Orbitals number 0. Orbitals and suborbitals 0. Population. How many people are in this system? 10 billion. Or 10 pop units. 10 pop. Pop units being a billion, of course. Tech level. TL16. Nation tier. That's a harder question to answer. We could, of course, like, all of this is theoretically randomly generatable. Theoretically. Or we can, do it manually. Nation tier. For that, I actually need to open my file to remember what tier they are. For that, we go to our random generators. Okay. Nation tiers. Upper midline is going to be 7. It is an upper midline nation. Do we have any remarks? Not off the top of my head yet. Not off the top of my head yet. Let's actually edit that slightly. 10 is the average, but we should, of course, edit it. $18 billion in this system. Meaning it's relatively underpopulated if we're being technical. There are no worlds, technically. It's going to be mostly stations. Many orbital stations. Let's add a few tags. There's not much in the system. Oh, that's a good thing to add then. Under civilization profile, trade type. They are, let's go back over to our file. We have a little chart for types of civilization. Assuming this chart doesn't crash on me. Here we are. This is a transit system. People don't really go here to sell a lot. It's not like they don't sell here, but this system's mostly meant for transit to other systems. We will add one tag, which is shipyards. They do have a reasonable set of shipyards here. I'm not sure whether it should just be shipyards or whether they should be upgraded to heavy shipyards in their tag designation. Because they are, like, they are reasonable in their shipyards. But I'm not sure their shipyard industry counts as heavy. They can produce stations, nobody denies that. But they can't do it on their own without importing, really. They don't have star lifting. So, we want to consider their shipyard industry heavy. I'm not sure we will. I'm not sure we will. No, we won't indicate it as heavy, just shipyards for now. We can always change the tags. Anything else that we can do easily that stands out? Tier 7, upper midline. Yes, there are repeats. There we are. Here. We could just throw in some of this stuff here. I mean, we could. There's absolutely nothing stopping us from that. What is the minimum resources we possibly have? That's an important question. On our chart here, the minimum amount of resources that you can have is 2. Actually, it says minimum 0, but I'm not sure what could bring it down. Like, I don't have the entire list in front of me. Oh, here we are. Nope. So we'll just note it as resources 2. It has labor 9. Infrastructure. Much infrastructure have they got? It's based on their importance, and their importance is standard. So it's going to be 1. Like 3. About 3. Okay. So now we go back to there. We could always roll, or we could choose ourselves. Okay, so the infrastructure is going to be B. Infrastructure B, efficiency. Here we are. Efficiency 0. 1. Efficiency 1. There we go. Importance 3. And that also means that we can fill this out as 2, 9, B, What is this system's law? That's always fun. Let me make sure I know the numbers here. Okay. So, first of all, the base law is going to be 5. Weapons law is going to be 4. Drug law is going to be 3. Information law is going to be 3. What comes after information? Technology. Technology law is going to be 5. Outsiders law is going to be, that's another hard one, 3. And casters law is going to be, let's see, what should their casters law be? 4. Now we have their law set. What's their industrial base? It's another fun one. Let's go to the section for determining industrial base. Here we are. Gotta find the section real fast. Where's the section for that? It's always hard to find. Okay, here we are. Population, which in this case counts as A, which is 10, plus 2d6, minus 7. Okay, that gives us a total of minus 1. So we're at 9. The overall law is average, so we have no penalties from that. Plus 1, because, well, it's not a world. Bring us back up to 10. 12. Okay, so industrial base is 12, which is also translated as C. So we have industrial base C. Space infrastructure? That's easy. They're only in space. So, space infrastructure, I mean, you could have run down space stations. Don't get me wrong, it's possible. They're going to have A, space infrastructure. So that will be listed as A. Do they have bases? Probably. What options do we have to slap on as bases? that, we need to go all the way up to here. To this section with them. Hmm. Nothing that stands out well other than shipyards. Okay. They have an M, N, and Y. There we are. Merchant, naval, and shipyard. We don't know the government type or economy. Well, we actually do. We can figure that out rather easily. I think that's just standard. We'll figure that out some other time. The population we know is A, 18 billion. And as you see, well, let's figure it out, I suppose, with... No, that's pretty much set. So, like so, we have a system. Are there any other interesting tags you want to add? That's the real question. Shipyards, space-based. Do they have any special bits? Station clusters. They have notable shipyards. The shipyards are important enough that they're notable on the tags. They are a space-based society, of course, given that they don't have planets. And they stay in station clusters. And there we have some interesting tags about them. We have a bit on their civilization profile. And of course, much like with good old traveler world codes, theoretically, this entire list can be condensed down into a string of letters and numbers. Okay, so that should be G. I'll put that there, because 16 translates to G. There we are. Of course, like I said, world profile, not entirely applicable in this case. Because, well, it's not worlds. Theoretically, you could make stations have world profiles, but it's really not that relevant in this case. I mean, it's a lot of stations, and even if we were to generalize, it would literally just be atmosphere, like Terran standard, like 6 or 7 or something, whichever it is. Hydrosphere would be like special because it's controlled. Biosphere would be just standard because, well, standard slash controlled. Like, there's no need to make a world profile for these stations, really. The only thing we might possibly put on their world profile is remarks for anything special about each station, but also we get back to map only is really necessary, and we don't really need to input all the data on each of the stations, you know, unless players visit them or something. Which, you know, players might. Players might. But also, dude, no, this is a subsector. I mean, this is a sector, sorry. That's a subsector. The system, subsector, sector. And then, you know, we get the fun of that's not the right one. That right there, that one, this is Sacred Grove sector. Then these are, of course, mega sectors. And then, well, gigasector, I suppose. Because, you know, like it's multiple sectors, I don't know. But, you know, here we are. The galaxy. As you can see, the frontier is a ways away. I think I've been over this before. I mean, there are player groups in the frontier. Of course, the adventures of Juliana Aldis, our solo campaign character, take place in the Terran nations. And even if she wanted, which she doesn't, I mean, you know, other than the fact that people know the frontier exists, there's basically no way to get there from here. Well, there is. There's actually a very easy way. Take the advanced gate network to get to here. From here, take the ancient gate that leads to, you know, way over there. But, like, if you want to go the direct from civilized space, it's just not possible. There's no mapped route from here to there with known FTL lanes that connect entirely. Anyway, point is, like, if you want to know what we mean by, like, scale, I'm sure I've shown this before. This is basically what we work on when we show the map there. There's the, I mean, it's literally all in one square at this point, but, you know, the little sectors on the in the subsectors, the FTL lanes connecting them and so forth. And those subsectors make up the sector, and then the sectors make up the single squares here, which make up the megasectors, which make up, technically this is the gigasector, and then, you know. Space is big. Space is big. I believe it would take, let's do the math, it's been a while. With a military grade, non-imperial, just standard galactic military grade FTL drive, you're looking at $22 years, 22.8 years. Obviously, that's rough. Like, if you go, that's if you go in a straight line, which is not a thing that's going to happen. I mean, yeah, it's like 22.8 years if you went in a straight line. Also, I forget the exact math, but like it's about 20,000, 200,000 light years or so. So, but, you know, like, just look at Sacred Grove. You're not going in a optimal straight line across, you know? You're not going to be like, I'm going to travel here and it's going to take 150 hours. No, no. It's going to be like, okay, so that's there and then nope, sorry, can't go that way. Forgot that doesn't connect. So, point is, it's like you have to go up to here to go to there. Point is, it increases your time. And not everything. This is a hub. This is a heavily civilized area. In more sparse areas, there's no guarantee that one half of a sector will even connect to another half of the sector. Like, point is, like, there's no guarantee. And that's not even taking weather into effect. FTL weather, in quotation marks, is effects of FTL that cause delays and problems and all that. And, like, point is, yeah, it says in a straight line with optimal conditions, if there was a complete line of systems all lined up perfectly with perfect connections between them, it would take 22.8 years. Without that, it's going to take longer. And like I said, that's assuming you have a military grade FTL drive. And like even then, you're more than likely going to have to stop for supplies and like it's nowhere near as actually simple as taking 22.8 years to cross the galaxy as explained by you know like I just said, distance and being able to go in a straight line and weather and all of that, let alone like I said, there not being connections between certain systems and like people's territories, all that. So, for instance, that's actually a major problem south of the council. A lot of this area south of the council, the southern frontier, there's a lot of territory of entire sectors, each square being a sector as mentioned. There are entire sectors south of the council, entire clusters of them, that basically don't have through connections. They don't have unified FTL lanes. And the weather there is usually terrible, so like there's no easy route through, let alone known all the way all these sectors down. Like there's no known route out there. Mostly outside of civilized space, it's that way. Like theoretically, there are theoretically lanes that do lead further out. There are lanes. It's just not been worth it for a lot of them. I mean, like the council sort of collapsed as we've been over, I'm pretty sure. So it's not really in their capability to do much out there. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a few routes, like I said, and certain sub parts of the nation do it, but the council is not a unified faction. And there's also not a lot of like civilized nations just outside of council territory, which just makes it really difficult for the council to bring new factions in. And the way the council works, being multiple nations in itself, they don't want their other, like, the council's not in the best of state ever. It's a bunch of separate nations. And those nations don't necessarily want the border nations to just freely expand, and there's lots of politics behind it and all that. And of course, nobody on this side can really expand north into Imperial territory. Over here, we have Eldritch territory. The same stands for over here with the with the lack of connections. Wild territory, I mean, there are people there, but it is very unmapped. FTL lanes there are sparse. Eventually, up north, it's somewhat the same. It's similar up north. But there are more known lanes heading out. It's just the northern nations usually don't bother heading out further up north, like territory-wise. There's no solidified major nations that aren't in conflict with each other. So, but that might be the next great era. The era of, well, the second era of expansion, when nations go further into the frontier. I mean, they are sort of doing that with the gate here to try and expand into the frontier. Anyway, space is big. Like we said, in one sector, and then there's systems, and it's just there's a lot. And you can see how annoying it can get. Other than that, though, like one of the other problems we have and projects we have is to consolidate all the data. We have data of, I think I've been over before, mapping only is really necessary. We have like sections of like subsectors in like, subsector here. That's not the entire sector, just a subsector here covered. Or one over here that we need to consolidate into full, things. So there's lots of work to do. But, once again, map only is really necessary, so I just really want to complete this sector because it's so important, Other than like, a few very important sectors that I really want to get fully done, the rest is all very much map only is really necessary. Anyway, let's see. Besides, we have ways of determining like everything, whether there's a way to pass through a sector, whether there are lanes, the time it takes for rough estimation, all that. Anyway, that's about that. I suppose, I mean, we'll call it there. It's been about an hour and a half. We didn't really get much done. But once more, I am just concerned about whether we should, like I said, whether we should show working on the entire grid, like the entire section of that. I mean, of course, I doubt, like, I do draw the limit at me noting down the coordinates of FTL lane points. That's a bit much. I doubt anybody cares about that. Hell, it's something I have to do, but I despise the fact that it's something I have to do. So, I doubt that that's worth showing. But actually mapping out the sectors, maybe. Maybe. It feels boring, but like I said, it's one of those things where I'm not sure. We also have a segment that I mentioned that we're working on. We're working on improving our little Imperial News section, which we're going to do before our lore series, which has had delays. I've gotten a little bit of a worry sort of block in our lore series, not gonna lie. I once more am stuck at the whole I have to make sure everything's in the series on a topic. Otherwise, how will I go back and recover that topic? Like, do I just redo it all? How do I go back and recover it? I feel like I have to include everything. Then I get worried that there's something I've missed, and so forth. Which is why the news series is going to be so much easier. Anyway, that's enough for now. I've rambled more than enough. We'll call it then. Next time, we will actually run the game once more on our escape with our target. See how that goes, see where the bot takes us, try and run for longer and all that, and hopefully have a good time. I hope you all enjoyed our relatively slower world building session. We'll get a lot more into tags and design and so forth as we go. We'll see how it all works out. Ooh, I haven't had a loose idea. Unless there's big topics I want to cover, or big things we want to build, we could run the game twice a week. Could run it on this day instead of world building. Not sure what, I mean, because look, there's so much we could actually talk about in world building. There's so much we could work on. The problems I always just find is it interesting enough? Because when it comes to world building topics, you've probably heard it all before. If you care about world building, you've probably heard it all before. I mean, I wouldn't mind covering it, but you've probably heard it all before. Then there's the actual world build working, which can be fun, theoretically. You know, when we're actually typing out bits of lore, paragraphs of lore for things, or adding tags, we can make adding tags fun. But then there's bits where it's like making a map. Parts of mapping can be fun. Then there's, you know, placing system objects on a grid. Far less fun. You know, I just don't know. I mean, I'm perfectly fine doing any of it. I personally, even if I find working on getting the map set up boring, even if I find it boring, do understand, I am going to be doing that either way. It's not like I'm like, well, I have to do this thing I find boring for stream. I find playing the game a lot funner than I find, you know, putting grids. I find world building a lot funner than I find putting grids, you know? Like but, you know, like, how do I put it? I have to do it either way. It is a bit funner doing it here than it is doing it not here, I suppose. I have no qualms about doing it here. You know? It's really a matter of is it, like I said, it's the thing I face. Is it worth preserving me putting grids on a map, you know? As opposed to actually making the star systems. Which is also a lot of rolling, but at least I find it a bit more engaging. I mean, at least we're rolling to put data on a sheet and we can talk about the data. What's there to talk about when putting a square, you know? I mean, unless you like hearing me read out numbers, you know? Subsector 1-5. Location 2-5. Location 2-13. Location 4-13. Location 5-3. Location 7-8. Location 7-12. Location 7-14. Location 8-2. Location 11-3. Location 13-9. And so forth. Like, while I put down numbers on a grid, you know? But I have to do it either way. The question is it worth saving? Is that what you want me to do here? Because we can. It's not like we do it forever or anything. It's just this one sector, you know? Or when it's relevant. It's just, like I said, this is one of the few sectors I want to fully complete. It's just a lot of that, you know? And, like, that's my point. Like, I feel it's boringer than other bits of world building. Who knows? Other than that, of course, like I said, we could theoretically run solo Sunday on multiple days. It's not really, you know, it's not really forced to be on Sunday. We already do it on Friday, so, you know, we could do it on these days if we're not heavy on world building. Of course, we'll always world build, don't get me wrong. When it comes to talking about Galactic Requiem and playing Galactic Requiem, there's we'll never stop. We've been doing this for years and years and years. We will never stop working on Galactic Requiem, ever, to the end of time. There's always stories and adventures to be had, places to map, things to write, forever. You know? So, it's not like we won't, it's not like just because we do Solo Sunday on more days doesn't mean we'll just put off world building forever or anything. But, it's just hard to decide what we want to do. Because I'm technically happy to do any of it. Play the game, make maps, do the boring bits, do the more fun bits, and omit the boring bits. Like, we've been running with Juliana Aldis for a long time. A while, but other than there are some unarchived ones, like I said, but we've been running with Juliana Aldis for a while. We can do other things in the galaxy. We can talk about starship design. We can design starships on Worldbuilding Wednesday. We can. We can go through the design process. We can talk about guided missile systems. Isn't that fun? I love guided missile systems. We can do all that sort of stuff. And, of course, there's like one requirement in my view. The one requirement in my view is that we run at least one tabletop Galactic Requiem solo match a week. That's like my one requirement. Because, well, we make progress, we get stuff done, I enjoy it greatly. Even if at times it's a bit slow, I enjoy it greatly. Even the slow bits, describing the world, going about doing stuff in the world, I enjoy that, and that's our primary thing here. Look, at our bottom thing, stories, P&P RPGs, which is the old pen and paper RPGs. Nowadays, people call them tabletop RPGs, TTRPGs, or TNT RPGs, or whatever you call them now. But, pen and paper RPGs, that's what we do. So, running that once a week, that's the one thing we do, Talking about it and all that, I enjoy it. Unfortunately, my schedule has been exceptionally busy, which is why we've shifted things, which is why Worldbuilding Wednesday's on still Wednesday, but, Solo Sunday is now on Friday, and we don't do anything Sunday, but that's because my busy schedule. Theoretically, we can try and find more time and do games again or something. Or maybe we can skip a few Worldbuilding Wednesdays for video games. But I'm very particular in the video games I play and the way I play video games, So, but like I said, we can always do more Solo Sunday instead of world building sometimes. I just don't know. There's a lot we can do. There are endless possibilities. And, so that's our plan. Next time, Solo Sunday on, Friday, which will be Sunday for me, technically. I mean, you can do the math yourself. In the Galactic Standard Calendar, there are 7 days in a week. The first day of the week is Monday, and there are 4 weeks in a month. Always. So there's 28 days in a month, meaning the first is always Monday, the 8th is always Monday, and so forth, and so on. So, if you look at our little calendar in the corner, you'll know that today is Friday, and that when we show up for Solo Sunday on your Friday, it will be Sunday. So, anyway. long story short, um, so there's just a lot we can do. But Solo Sunday next, and then I'm not sure what we'll do on World Building Wednesday. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out sometime. It might be a surprise. Because I don't know what we'll work on then. But I know what we'll do on Solo Sunday. So, enough rambling. Have a good day.